All right, it's 6:30. I'm going to call this meeting to order. The Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And roll call.
Okay. Member Galvin?
Here.
Member Raffinelli?
Present.
Member Pache?
Here.
Member Earl?
Here.
Member Schill?
Here.
Member Bicknell?
Here.
And Chair Taylor?
Present. All right. Are there any late changes to the agenda?
No late changes to the agenda, Chair.
All right. They'll stand as they are. Public comment. Anyone requesting to speak to the board regarding all items not subject to the specific hearing may come forward at this time. Please state your name and limit comments to 3 minutes. Written comments may be submitted to the clerk prior to the meeting.
Ridgefield Garden Club. I'm expecting 2 more members tonight, but they're not here yet, so we just wanted to express, number one, that the park, the hollow that you were just talking about, we went out there and did a little tour. Amazing. It's amazing. We really feel like that's the future of where Ridgefield is going. We're super excited about it. We just wanted to lend our support and just say how, you're doing a great job and talking about Big City and keeping native plants always on topic. So thank you so much.
Thank you. All right, and for consent agenda, is there an approval, a motion to approve the minutes for the January 14th meeting?
I move to approve the January 14th, 2026 Parks Board minutes as is.
I second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, and they are approved. We're gonna move on to business. Our first item to discuss is the Parks Revenue Program update. Mr. Corey Crownhart, Parks Manager.
Wonderful. Thank you, Chair and Parks Board. It's always good to see you and lovely audience. So with that, tonight I'm here to share an update with you on the Parks Revenue Program that we've been working on with the city. Just to remind you, the Parks Revenue Program was a budget initiative that was adopted in 2025 that's continued into 2026 that is all about how do we create philanthropic channels of funding revenue for our parks and recreation system. If this slides. Cool. So because of that, one of the biggest things we're working on right now is using this program to help monetize, oh, it's going to be the other one. It's okay. To help monetize the community and recreation center that we're working on for the city. So to remind everybody, the Community Recreation Center is a massive project that the city has been working on for more than a decade. And we are reaching a point, we're reaching a milestone of groundbreaking later this year. And with that comes a lot of other work to make sure that we have not only a functioning building, but one that is paid for and one that is operating safely. So there's really 3 big components of the project for the community center. The first is constructing the building itself, so making sure we've got proper permitting, making sure that we have secure construction management and contractors to build the building, and then of course going through the construction process itself. The second part of the overall community and recreation center project is the operations of the facility itself. As you could imagine, a facility of this size is going to take a lot of staff to run. So that's lifeguards, that is folks to run the facility, that's folks to do janitorial work, facility manager, and right now we're looking at having an outside contractor do a lot of this work. That said, we can't just hire them on day one and expect them to have a fully functioning team. So there's a lot of work working backwards. If you were to just look at lifeguards, if you want them to be ready to go on day one, you probably need to hire them about 6 to 8 weeks ahead of time, which means you need to hire their supervisors about 6 to 8 weeks ahead of them. And if you want someone to help set up the overall program itself, that's probably another 6 or 8 weeks before that. So all of a sudden you start looking at a 6 to 8 month or 9 month lead time just when it comes to the staffing component of the facility. Now that's just for the pool, but we also have a child care component, which has to deal with licensing with DCYF, as well as a commercial kitchen, which is going to deal with Department of Health. And on top of that, there's everything else that comes from marketing the program, making sure that we've got online systems set up so you can purchase memberships. All of that stuff is work that's being done. So those are the first two components. The third component is what we're going to talk to you about tonight, and that is the capital campaign program, or essentially fundraising so we can build the building. Now, this is a 43,000 square foot facility, and as anybody knows, that is a lot of space, which means it requires a good amount of capital to get this built. Right now, the city has appropriated $15 million that is looking at being bonded with the city to help pay for part of it. And the remainder of those funds we will be raising through a capital campaign. Right now, that's going to be a goal of about $25 million, but the actual internal goal that we have is $50 million for the overall facility. $40,000 to cover the full cost of the facility and construction, and an additional $10 million to support operations long term. Now, we can hit that $50 million mark. My answer is yeah. That said, we're going to try our very best to get as much as we can. Now, when we're going out there and we're asking people for money in the community, we're not just asking them for money to help build a building. So let's jump to the next slide. We really want to come back to what is Ridgefield all about. And working with our capital campaign consultant team, we have taken a lot of the conversation that's happened at council, that's happened with this group, and distilled down what is Ridgefield about. And what it's consistently come back to is the idea of connection. That Ridgefield is about a place where people stop and talk to each other. If someone honks at you on the road, it's not because they're being rude, it's because they're trying to say hi. That we stop and talk to someone at the grocery store. We go to our local businesses and build those relationships. We know our teachers. We know the people when we go to our parks. We know people when we pass them on the trail. So if that's been a big part of who we are, what we've realized is that there is a space that is missing for that connection. And that is a indoor space to help connect people together. So that's what we keep on tying back to. It's that connection. Next slide. So as we're looking at this, we're looking at what are those needs that we have in our community. And we really identified 4 key areas that we believe are going to resonate with the potential donors and folks who may be giving to this campaign. First of those is family and youth. As anybody who's got a kid knows, when you go out to the parks and you're going down a slide, if you haven't brought a squeegee or a towel, that kid's going to be soaked. So if you have an indoor space to bring your child for indoor play, for some sort of recreation and connection, it's going to create, you have another avenue to help support those kids. Seniors, there is a growing number of seniors in our community that are in need of spaces where they can practice health, where they can build community connections, especially after retirement, because those connections and health are what creates longevity and support for those people long term. Community groups. We have more community groups in Ridgefield than we've ever had. Folks like the Ridgefield Garden Club or the Lions Club or Ridgefield Main Street. All of these organizations are doing great things in our community, and there are more coming every day. To create a space where we can bring them together in a cost-effective way, where it's a building and a space that is partly theirs, can really help facilitate more of those connections. And then finally, economic vitality. By having a community center, we can help bring different types of activities to the community, draw new residents into our community, and help drive up tax opportunities long term. Next slide. So again, when we kind of went through the process with the capital campaign, we really wanted to work on what's our case statement? Because again, a building is wonderful, and I'm sure we could build a wonderful athletic club if we wanted to. But the reality is what we're building is much more than a building. It's like building a tall ship for sailing. It looks really good in harbor, but that's not what it's for. What we want to do is create a building and a space that can take us somewhere. and that can grow with time. We don't know exactly what programs are going to be in this building right now, and even when we get to day one, we will have a baseline of programs, but the reality is there'll be new programs that come around, new things that might be able to be brought into this space. What we're creating is a scaffolding that allows us to do more. And it's a place to, a place to learn, a place to play, connect, and most importantly, to belong. That's the phrase we keep coming back to. You belong. And that's what this is about. Next slide. And this is the phrase that has really stuck strongly with us. And that's that it's the infrastructure of belonging. That's what this community center is all about. It's where neighbors become community. And if we frame it in those contexts, and we're going to talk to donors, we're asking people in the community to help support this project, we are not asking them to build a building. In the end, that is what we are doing. What we're asking you to create is a space for our community, and that we don't want you to just donate and leave. You donate and you stay because you belong. That's the whole ethos that we keep on bringing throughout this. So the reason why I'm sharing with you today is so that you're aware of like how we're trying to talk about the campaign and how we're trying to talk about this facility. Because the more we get into the details of, well, how tall is it and how many square feet is it, that's all good stuff. But what about that senior who may be having some challenges accessing food, and now we've got Meals on Wheels at the community center? Or what about that, we all probably know some friends of ours who might go to those meetings once a month where you get the coins, right? This is the place where they could be meeting. Kinship care. There's a number of families whose children who are being raised by grandparents or uncles, to have a space where they could come together and bond and reflect and share ideas on how to help support the children is a whole thing. That's what this space can be for us, as well as a place to go, running on the treadmill, swimming in the pool, and just to go play chess with a friend. That's the objective of this space. In the end, it all comes down to that community and that connection. Next slide. All right, so let's talk about kind of the next step of this. So we've really hit home the idea of what is the feeling that we want in this campaign, and that's you belong. Now it's, well then, how can you help? So as we're going through the capital campaign, we're offering community members a variety of ways to support and sponsor components of the building. And the way that a capital campaign unfolds really starts with the big rocks first, working all the way down to the pebbles in the sand. But all of them are important to help build the ecosystem of what we're trying to build. So right now we're in the quiet part of the capital campaign, where we are building relationships with high net worth donors in the community and offering them opportunities to make substantial, sizable, transformative donations for the facility. And for doing that, we're offering them opportunities to name and have a say in some of the naming prospects of different parts of the center. So let's first go over some of the floor plan, and then I could talk about what some of those pieces look like. Oh, we'll go back up one. Thank you, Kim. All right, so looking at the facility here, this is the ground level of the community center. The way you would be entering this facility is there is a square up at the top that says lobby. It's a very small font that you probably can't see, but it's a small square up in the corner, and it's a shared atrium that connects the community center and the recreation center. The community center side is in pink, and there are 3 multi-purpose rooms, a lounge, teen center, some storage, as well as a commercial and teaching kitchen. Those multi-purpose rooms and the commercial kitchen have wall partitions that can move so that we can open up that space to have teaching classes and lessons, or to close off the kitchen and have a larger meeting space or a ballroom. The teen space is very cool because it has a roll-up garage door inside, which is super fun, and is a great place for our teens to come in and have a space that's dedicated just to them. And when looking at social emotional learning, especially for teenagers, a space like that is critical for their well-being and overall development. Jumping over to the other side of the building, you'll see the recreation center. You'll enter into the front, there'll be a reception, restrooms. There is a child care center. If anybody has been to Lakeshore Athletic Club, it's similar to that, smaller. It does not have the cool jungle gym slide thing in there, which my daughter will be very disappointed about, but it's a very cool space indeed. There is a cardio section there, so you've got your treadmills, your ellipticals, stair steppers, and then on the other side of that, where you've got the big square with the rounded corners, that is the upstairs track that will be above the sports court that is below that. So that is actually open to below. Next slide. From there, you'll head downstairs. It's set up like an open basement because it's built into a hillside. You'll have your weight room, your basketball court, which does fit 3 pickleball courts. I made sure of that. We want to make sure that there's like big Cardi the Crane right there in the middle of the court. There are locker rooms, a sauna, family locker rooms, and then of course the natatorium or the pool, where you've got a 0 entry pool and a lap pool. The lap pool is to the proper specifications for high school swim meets. We've actually already been in conversation with the school district to ensure that when this is built, the school's swim team does not have to drive all the way to Camas. They can do it here. All right, next slide. Now let's get to some pictures. This will be a little more exciting. So of course, as we're going through our, working with our donors, our largest donation is going to have the opportunity to name the overall facility. Now this isn't to say that it's going to be the Taco Bell rec center for the city of Ridgefield. This is likely to be a family name, someone who has been a part of Clark County for decades. Think similar to like the Furstenberg Center in Vancouver, something along those lines. Next slide. With that, there's naming the facility overall, but there's multiple wings that can be named as well. Because again, this is a community space that is for everyone. So we want to make sure that every price point has an opportunity to have their name somewhere in this facility. So we've looked at spaces like the natatorium, which is the aquatics and the pool wing, as well as the community center wing, working with some of those high net donors to say, hey, who might want to be part of these components? Next slide. Again, doing the same for the recreation center, as well as the gymnasium and the sports courts. Next slide. And then there's other smaller spaces we can look at as well. Childcare space, teen center, commercial and teaching kitchen, a reception space inside the community center, or even each of the multi-purpose classrooms, multi-purpose rooms in the community center have an opportunity to have a naming rights behind them. And we're already planning out things like murals to go in these spaces that we can work with donors to get to have some influence on what those items might be. We can go back to the exterior photos. I think those are the most striking. Now that said, those are some of the larger items that we're working on now as we're working with our kind of tier 1 donor pool. That said, as we move through this project over the next 18 months, we'll start putting in, our bucket, the different size rocks. We put in the big rocks first, and then we'll put in some of the medium-sized ones, but we're eventually going to get down to make sure that everybody has an opportunity to participate. And that's looking at things like monetizing things within the facility that are not actually physical assets. For example, we are looking at putting together a emergency response sponsor. Essentially, looking for a sponsor who might want to support the investment in a trailer, a trailer with cots and emergency supplies, so that if there's ever a emergency declaration in the city and we have to evacuate people from certain parts of the community, this is where our shelter would typically be set up. What if we had a donor help support that effort? Or things like we have to certify all of our staff in first aid and CPR in order to run a facility like this, or the certifications of our lifeguards. We can have a public safety, we can have a health sponsor that might sponsor all of the first aid materials and all the certifications for the first 10 years. Those are some of our operating costs that our donors can help support, because the thing is, it's not about just the building, it's about the things we need to put in it. So that's the work that we're doing to make sure there's lots of ways to monetize it. Lastly, as we get furthest down the campaign, we really start going public with this and it's getting closer to opening, we'll be looking at asking the community to sponsor in small ways. Can you pay for a brick? Can you pay for a bench? Can you, donate $100 to put your name on the placard on the wall? Because we want everyone to be a part of it in some degree or form, and provide everyone that opportunity to be part of this space. Because at the end of the day, it belongs to all of us, and you all and we all belong there. Again, trying to tie it all back together with that "you belong" message. So really what I want to come to you today is, one, share with you where is this overall plan going. Why does it seem quiet right now? Because we're working on the big pieces right now, but those other components will come later. So I'd like to turn it back over to you, Chair and Parks Board, if you have any feedback, if anything resonates with you, I'd love to hear it.
All right. How about discussions or questions?
As far as the large donation campaign, that when you begin doing that, is there a role the Parks Board can hold in that?
For the Tier 1 donors at this point, no. That said, one of the things we're looking at developing over the next probably couple of months is going to be a campaign committee to help out with some of the Tier 3 and 4 level donors that we're working with at some point. So I'll be reaching out to each of you to see how you might want to participate and support that.
With this said, I don't know where you are with the capital campaign, like Tier 1 and how much you've acquired so far, but does that mean it's still on set to break ground spring of this year?
It's set to break ground sometime the summer of 2026. So right now we're working through the permitting components, and we've already put out to bid the request for qualifications for firms to build the facility itself. So we have a bid out there. It opens on April 1st, at which point our team will be reviewing it and then finally selecting a contractor, which will then go to council for approval.
And can you confirm it will all be in one build, or are there phases?
The plan right now is one build
Thank you. With the pool.
with the pool.
Get a lot of questions. That's the number one question. Is the pool coming with the build?
Absolutely. Yep, the bid that's out there is for the entire project all in one go.
Do you guys have any other questions? I'm with Crow yesterday. I asked a lot of questions. I feel like I'm really excited for the teen space. I feel like our teens need somewhere to go, so I'm really excited about that space. And I like the idea of that everybody has a chance to feel like they get to have ownership of the building, down to from big donors to smaller donors. I think that's really, really important. And I love the theme. I think that's really cool. Anybody else? All right, thank you, Mr. Gunhart. We'll move on to the next discussion and business matter of business is the state of the city update from Mr. Gunhart.
Wonderful. Thank you, Chair. All right, so on Tuesday is the State of the City event for the city of Ridgefield. And this year, we're taking a little bit of a different approach. If you've attended State of the Cities in the past, typically there's been a reception beforehand where there's been tablings by different divisions and departments within the city, which I'm sure everyone would agree the Parks table is always the best. I'll take that as a yes. Perfect. So this year, the approach is a little bit different. To help encourage more opportunities for the public to connect with the city, what they're looking at is having each of our boards and commissions do a tabling at the event as opposed to our departments, because you all serve as that connective tissue for council to help advise them at their work. So at State of the City, there'll be tables for the Planning Commission, the Youth Commission, the Roundabout Committee, as well as Parks Board. So with that, we've put together some materials for you to kind of help get you there and get you kind of ready for it. We have some visuals that we're pulling up right now. I also put together some talking points for you as well. But this is an opportunity for us to talk about what we've put together for you and to answer any questions you might have so that you feel like you're prepared for the event and your discussions with the public. So what I have before you are 3 different boards that we'll have put up there at your table. The way we've structured this is that we're focusing in on what is the role of Parks Board. And as not all residents in the city sometimes know, Parks Board is mostly about planning for the future, as opposed to what's being built right this moment. And you see that in a lot of the work that Parks Board yourselves, as well as your predecessors, have done over the years. In the 2020 PROS Plan, that is probably the document that's had the most impact on parks and recreation assets in the city over the past 6 years. That's why you've seen projects like Greeley Farms, where you have Greeley Park, was dedicated to the city. That wasn't by accident. That was because that was determined as a section of the city that was lacking a community park. Therefore, we worked with developers to help make that happen. Similarly to acquiring properties for Boyce Park, which now has the pump track, and Storybook Hollow, which is set to open at the end of this month. That again, those were all found within that 2020 PROS plan. It also helped determine what assets we're going to put in. So why do we have a splash pad? Because the 2020's PROS plan said that one of our gaps was aquatic programs and outdoor and splash pad type activities. So we moved towards building something like that. The next thing that we're working on as a Parks Board is the 2026 PROS plan, which I currently have that out to bid. That is, we're getting back consultant proposals on the 25th. We'll be reviewing that shortly thereafter, and we'll have someone on board by our May meeting. In fact, I'm already looking at having whoever we choose to be in that role to be here at the May meeting to help introduce themselves and talk about the overall process. But that component of your work this year is likely to be the most impactful work we'll do for probably the next 5 years. So we want to use this opportunity at the State of the City to help get some of that feedback and start establishing relationships in the community so people know that it's coming. So that's what these boards are about. First board is all about what is Parks and Recreation planning, and that is what is the work that you do, what is the PROS plan, and what does it lead to in terms of outcomes. Next one. The next one that we put up is, because every time I've done the State of the City, people always want to pull up a map and point out, here's my house, where are things coming? And so here's some maps that will help. But specifically, we pulled out the maps for the strategic park acquisition as well as trail connectivity and corridor planning. So part of the 2020 PROS plan was to identify where on our, in our map are we in gaps of services. So on here, letter C is where Greeley Farms was developed and Greeley Park was acquired. Letter A is where Storybook Hollow and Boyce Park were defined and acquired. Letter B, over in the southwest corner, is where Taverner Ridge was developed, and I believe that's Sevier Park 1 and 2 were both acquired as part of this project. Looking down below for trail connectivity, this is our overall idea of where should trail connectivity be long term and what's the priority level of those. So in here you'll see that there's a big priority for Trail 3, which would help connect downtown to the 35th roundabout. That area has been highly important to this group, and I imagine will be asked about during the State of the City event. Next slide. And then finally, we have a board put together that's just talking about the next chapter. what does the next chapter of Parks and Recreation look like? And that is the PROS Plan 2020. So over the next year or next 6 to 8 months, we'll be asking the community to complete surveys. We'll be holding open houses. We'll be meeting with community groups to get their feedback and their take on what they think should come for Parks and Recreation long term. From there, it'll be your objective to help distill that down and put forward a recommendation to council on what a PROS plan could look like. So these are the materials that we've put together for you. Again, I've put together some talking points as well. But I'd like to turn it back over to you, Chair, to discuss, and I can answer any questions you have.
Great, you guys. Any questions? Discussion? I just want to say that I really appreciate these 3 big signs that we're gonna have, Corey, because with the word PROS plan for the longest time, I would hear that thrown out there, and I have to be honest with you, I was like, PROS plan, PROS plan, PROS plan. And seeing parks, recreation, and open spaces, I think that a lot of people don't really understand what PROS plan means. It's jargony. And so this makes it really clear, and the fact that community members will be able to come to this State of the City event and understand that they do play such a big part in it and they do have a voice, and that I think this makes it really clear. So I'm appreciative of all 3 of these signs. I think it makes it clear that they matter.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I had a question, Corey, about the whether or not there would be a legend of the items that are noted on the park acquisition and trail connectivity maps to identify what has been done or anything that is in the works, just to help people. As you say, everybody shows up and wants to know what's near me and what is changed, what's coming.
There is a legend on the screen how for these maps. That said, I think what you're, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think you're asking more of like what has come from the plans over the last 6 years. Is that specified on here?
Yes.
That is not specified on here, but that is, I could put together a list for you all as well.
I think that would be helpful to show people the momentum and how we follow through on things. And I'm sorry, I wasn't clear. The legend idea is really about the numbering and lettering system to understand. Just some people aren't so great with just looking at a map and knowing where they are.
We can do that.
That would be awesome. Thank you.
You guys excited? Okay.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah, I'm sorry I won't be able to be there for the State of the City. But it would be nice to be able to talk to people about it and share and try and get them to spread the word for those who aren't able to attend the State of the City.
Well, and, we can make sure that there's more opportunities for those connections, especially as we're going through the PROS plan process.
I know that you gave us a kind of an outline of what you think people might want to discuss. Is there anything specifically that Parks has been asked most recently of you that you think that will be brought up?
I imagine community members are likely to ask you about some of our current projects. So I think some of those are going to be Storybook Hollow. The question is going to be, is it open? And technically speaking, it is open to the public right now. They can't. It's what the signs say. The playground has not had its full safety inspection. We had it last week. They're running through the punch list this week. I can tell you that it's safe for kids to be on it right now because I did the inspection myself. But it will be turned over to the city once that punch list is complete. So there's currently a scheduled ribbon cutting for March 31st. I just got the notification today. You'll be getting invitations from me tomorrow to participate. It's a small ribbon cutting, really just council and Parks Board. And then this summer, they want to do a much larger celebration with things like movie in the park and food trucks, and then the whole host of people that we have to thank, such as the developer, the Columbia Cascade, who designed and built that slide, the architects who put together, the landscape architects that put together the master plan that you worked with. We want to bring them back and thank them. I've been in contact with them. They've come and viewed it a couple of times. Of course, all of the folks at our community development department that have been working with the developers, our engineers and project managers, all of them we want to help kind of really recognize, because this is a really cool park. We want to celebrate them. So I think you're going to get asked about Storybook Hollow Park. Second one you're probably going to get asked about is the community center, which really comes down to we're doing groundbreaking sometime in summer 2026 with the plan to have it open sometime in 2028. Just depends on how long construction takes and getting everything all set up. But construction, as everybody knows, can sometimes be a farce. We'll figure it out. Third thing you'll probably get asked about is the what's going to happen with the trail connection between downtown and 35th Roundabout. That's part of the long-term strategy for the city, but it coordinates with a lot of different projects, of course, which is Pioneer Street, as well as there's a sewer line update that's coming for that area as well. The other question I'll get asked about is probably e-bikes, which our youth commission is working on. Luckily, they'll be there so you can help get them connected. And then they're probably going to tell you how, what's their favorite park that's nearby and what do they like and why aren't there more pickleball courts and all of that stuff. But the way that I approach these conversations, and you can approach them how you want, but the way I approach them is these are initial conversations, but they're not the end of conversations, so that they feel more comfortable to come back and share more later. I hope that answers your question. Perfect.
Off subject a little bit. Are we still holding the ice cream feeds in the different parks in Ridgefield once every now and then for community? We used to do, I'm trying to remember what they called it. It wasn't meet and greet. It was the ice cream. They were like ice cream socials. What were they called, Beth?
Weren't they called the ice cream socials?
Yeah, okay. And they would do them at individual parks. COVID probably shut that down. But once a month, and they would only do it certain months of the year.
They wouldn't do it in December?
Council, Parks Board, no, would meet in a park of a designated area to get ideas from people for other parks. We've also, what did we call, Beth, when we put up the tents up there at the off-leash area, just to get people driving by on Hillhurst to stop and give us their input. We had it was like a round table, but they were kind of a little impromptu. It's not like we invited people to, we would just be somewhere that there would be a large number of people to come. The ice cream socials were advertised for the people, like there would be one in Bellwood Heights in one of the parks there, and there would be one up in Taverner Ridge. And now that we have a lot of these newer developments, we've not held an ice cream social. And it was a lot to talk. Some of it was talk to city council, meeting the council, but we also got a lot of information about parks. I think that would be a neat thing to bring back.
It's definitely something that I can note and I can bring up with the events division with City Hall.
Yeah.
They would be the ones to run stuff like that, but I can let them know.
Yeah, I know we use the DOT system. When people had suggestions, we'd write it down and put it on a sticker board. It was just a way for us to gain ideas. And there's a lot of new people in these neighborhoods. we don't probably need to hold an ice cream social in Bellwood Heights or Taverner anymore, but like Kennedy Farms and Soderling and the newer neighborhoods that have been moved into since 2020. Those are neighbors that we haven't gone out to them instead of asking them to come to us.
I think it's definitely a notable point that I'll bring up to events. I think that's a
Okay,
good idea.
thanks.
Well, I didn't know that actually happened, so thank you for sharing.
I'm sure it was COVID that ended that.
I had a follow-up question on the, I don't know what, the bricks for the community center, what tier that would be in, but when do you anticipate there would be some more complete talking points for us around those community members sort of price points?
That's likely to take place, I would say, probably in about, probably not until 2027.
Okay. Will the Parks Board be involved in developing how that looks, how that represents Ridgefield? And that specific thing, I think that there's a huge opportunity there to get a lot of grassroots sort of involvement from the citizenry.
There's potential for that. That's going to be a question that's going to be posed to council at some point. They'll be the ones to help determine that direction, but those are all things that are being put on the table.
I have, are you all, I wasn't sure if Beth was still talking or not, sorry, I don't want to interrupt you.
No, thank you. Go
Okay.
ahead.
2 questions. I know you said it's like 18 months out, kind of once build starts. Operations, do we know yet an idea of like what the city's thinking, if they want to do their own or if contracting with someone yet? Has that been in the talks of where, you said it takes 6 weeks, eventually,
It takes a
like,
whole lot to get a facility
do they have a
around.
time and when they want to determine when operations will be determined?
We're starting to work on that right now. So we're exploring different models of how this could work. The most likely, and I will say I'm pretty sure the model we're going to go with is having a outside contractor come run the facility itself. We're putting together some pretty strong user agreements to ensure that they have to, fulfill there's a public benefit obligation that is built into that contract to ensure that they are continuing to fill the vision of the city and providing the city the oversight legal components to make sure we can compel them to hold those standards. That's likely the route that we're going to go. Right now, we're looking at trying to put out something out to bid sometime in summer 2026. Sometime this summer is what we're looking at. There's been talk of doing it sometime in maybe May. And that would give us an opportunity to start looking at the different plans that different operators would provide to us, and then we can kind of determine from there which route might work for the city. But that's going to be a long process, and it's a little bit of we don't know what we don't know yet. And so as we go, we're going to learn a whole lot.
With the outside contractor, would that really limit like our ability as a city to hold grow the Parks and Recreation Department in terms of like having programs like summer camps that's not just the YMCA or having classes held in the parks or within the community center? Would that limit kind of, I guess, what with the outside contractor, do you think that would be something that they plan on programming or no?
Well, it's definitely something we'd want them to program. That's part of the public benefit obligation that we're trying to build within it. So I was actually working with our attorney a little bit this week on that. So that's how many hours per week is a facility required to be open? What types of programs need to exist? Right now we're looking at youth programs, senior programs, adaptive programs specifically for individuals with disabilities, ensuring that they have those programs in place and setting a baseline of what is that minimum expectation, while at the same time still building in the components that baseline can rise over time, right? And based on how the economic performance of the facility is doing, then we're going to want to push for more programs within the facility. Because again, this is not an athletic club, this is a community and recreation center.
I'm excited to hear that, just on the fact that I think city programs in the cities I've lived in or I've seen are the most affordable for families and are equitable for everybody. And so I would like to be able to see all kids to be able to participate in different programs where I think sometimes it's limited right now. And so to be able to see all Ridgefield kids to be able to participate in things would be really nice. And that theme that we're trying to make this community center have would really speak well to that. So I hope that, I'm glad that the city's considering that with their outside hiring model.
Yeah, it's imperative as we're going through this work to make sure that if we're going to be contracting with someone to operate a facility, it needs to have that public benefit obligation, and it needs to have the oversight of city council or elected officials, because again, this is for the community. This is not an athletic club.
Yeah.
So some people have reached out and asked me who would be running, and along the lines of that question is, some people have told me that the YMCA would be running it after we built it. Is that?
At this point, there have been no
Nobody.
negotiations with anyone on operating the facility itself. There are vendors out there that are interested and have asked questions about like what would that look like, what would a contract potentially look like, and this happens with almost every contract we do with the city. So, Pump Track, when we were putting out a contract to build that, prior to us putting out the bid, there were lots of folks who were asking like, hey, what might this look like? So what do we need to get how do we get our ducks in a row if we wanted to apply? So there have been some vendors that have reached out, some nonprofit, some for-profit entities have been reaching out as well. So we're looking at building a bid contract that allows for folks to bring their ideas to us, and we can kind of assess those as we go.
Is that something the YMCA does? Is go out to?
I don't know the YMCA's operations particularly,
okay.
but from what I understand, this is not something they're specifically pursuing.
I didn't think that was something the YMCA, because then they get to institute their own programs. Like they would have say in what programs would be offered and not offered. And,
Well, the way we're looking at building the contract right now is that we want a vendor who is a partner. So they would be able to bring ideas for programs up as well. It's not simply just doing exactly what we tell them to, but to work with them on what might your annual programming, plan look like, and how might we influence that and kind of support them through it.
Okay. Thank you.
Does anybody else have questions?
So I have a question I thought I saw somewhere we were in the earlier agenda that we were going to talk about funding living trust. Were you going to bring that, creating the living trust or the trust program?
Oh, that wasn't on the agenda for tonight.
Okay.
Anyone else? All right, then we will move on to public comment. Anyone requesting to speak to the board regarding all items not subject to the specific public hearing may come forward at this time. Please state your name and limit comments to 3 minutes. Written comments may be submitted to the clerk prior to the meeting. Okey-dokey. All right, and staff reports.
Wonderful. Thank you, Chair. And thank you, Parks Board. All right, I'll try and keep this quick. But there's a number of things happening between now and our next meeting. First, we do not have a meeting in April. Our meeting falls during spring break, and I imagine many of you, like myself, will be doing other things. So I hope everyone enjoys themselves, and we hope that the public does as well. A couple of updates I want to keep you aware of, some things that are coming up. One, your Parks Manager has been accepted into the Parks and Recreation Management and Leadership Academy through the Washington Recreation and Parks Association. So I will be attending that over the next few months. I have my first session on Monday and Tuesday with counterparts from across the state to learn everything there is about how to run a full Parks and Recreation department within a city. So very excited for that. I'll report back on how that goes. So because of that, I will be getting back late for State of the City. So I will be leaving Tukwila after the training gets done, and then I will be booking it back down here. So I will be showing up late, but I will be here. So if I'm not here during the reception part, just be aware. I've already let Megan DeMoss, our communications manager, know. So she's aware of it, they're aware of it. Other staff that are there know that I will not be there. So if you need any support, there are people there. But with any luck, I will get back in time. I hope. Traffic is never an issue up there, right? Great.
Or the rain.
Next up, Storybook Hollow Park is preparing to officially open. We have our ribbon cutting scheduled for March 31st, which I shared with you earlier today. I'm going to send you an invitation tomorrow for that event. We'd love to have you there as Parks Board. This is more of a photo op as opposed to a full-blown event. We're going to do a large event sometime this summer that'll have food trucks, and they're thinking about a movie in the park. And I'm sure that each of you would want to go down that big slide. It's kind of cool, isn't it? Yeah. Like, okay. It looks intimidating until you get on it, and you're like, okay, it's not that bad. Okay. Next up, between now and our next meeting is the Washington Recreation and Parks Association Annual Conference in Tacoma. I will be attending for the city. I will come back and give you a full report on what I learned there. When I'm there, I'll be talking with other parks professionals from across the state, learning how they run things like community centers. How do they manage and facilitate splash pads? How do they do park acquisitions and build new trails and all those types of things? So I plan on bringing a presentation to share with you what I learned while I'm there. Which brings me to Splash Pad. Splash Pad, you may have seen that there is a little bit of work happening this week to update one component within the Splash Pad vault. That is specifically the filter. We're changing out the sand filter that we have in the system, and we are replacing it with a cartridge filter. The benefit of this is that it is a much easier system to maintain. So instead of having to take sand out, getting the vac truck down there to then suck everything out, which is a total pain and takes a ton of staff time, instead it's just a simple cartridge that we can pull out, take back to the shop and clean, and drop right back in. It's a lot simpler. It's a small investment for a long-term benefit when it comes to our maintenance and operations. So you'll see some work down there. With that, I can assure you the Splash Pad will function this year. It will function. We're excited for it to officially open. So you will see it operational sometime in May. Great. We could check that one off the box. Hopefully. No, we are. Next up, the Parks Foundation of Clark County has their annual fundraising lunch on May 7th. That is before our next meeting. I want to give you guys an update on. I typically go for the city each year, but if you have not received an invitation, I'm going to shoot you one tomorrow. The Parks Foundation of Clark County does great things to support parks and recreation across the county. It's a great way to get connected with other folks, have a great lunch in downtown Vancouver, and support a cause that's really worthy. So I'll report back on how that goes as well. And then finally, as we talked about today, the PROS plan is underway, and we are looking for a contractor right now. We should have someone on board by our next meeting, and my hope and intent is to have the contractor, the consultant, come and present at that meeting. Other than that, my get outside message this week. The weather is very finicky this time of year, and I want everyone to be very wary of false springs, especially if you're doing any hiking around Mount St. Helens. Unfortunately, every year it seems that somebody does get themselves into a situation where they are not fully prepared, and so we just want to encourage everyone, please check the weather reports. Bring more layers than you think you might need, and if you have the means, please invest in a beacon of some type so that you can get the support that you need while you're out there. So that's my message between now and May. We stand for any questions that you may have.
You must be referring to the 70 degrees this next Tuesday here in Ridgefield.
it's going all
What's
over the place.
Forecasted, I know.
It's 40 degrees today, 70 next week. So just be prepared for whatever weather the weather may be.
Any other questions, guys? From the board, do you guys have anything?
UW.
I'd like to thank you for coming to our meeting and sharing your enthusiasm about the Storybook Hollow and being a wonderful partner of the Garden Club. We're wonderful people, so thank you for all you do for our community.
I'd love to talk to you too later. If you have any tips about making a 5-year-old not afraid of bees, I would love that because he is very terrified and I try to tell him, bees are good, you need bees. No, not having it.
All right, and with that, we'll adjourn. You guys, my eyes are so bad. I think it says 7. Oh, no,
Okay, good job.
7:25.